Alright, so today we're moving into the Pythagorean theorem converse. Alright, anyways, I keep getting rudely interrupted. Last week we talked about the Pythagorean theorem. In the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The a and the b represented what of the triangle? The legs. And the c represented the hypotenuse. And so it was always for a right triangle. It didn't matter which one was A or B. It only matters which one's C. And that C is always across from that 90-degree angle. Always. Oh. And A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, a converse is basically just another way of saying something. Yeah.
And the C is always bigger than the A.
Right. That is true. I didn't need to say that. So the C, the hypotenuse, is always longer than the side lengths, than the legs, always. So if you ever set up something with the Pythagorean theorem and your B or A is longer than C, then that means you did something wrong and you need to go back and check it. Okay, so what is a converse? So a converse of a statement switches the order of the if and then statements. So it says, try to write the converse of the following statements. So it says, if a triangle has 3 equal sides, then it is equilateral. So they want us to switch those. So I'm switching the if part and the then part. So to make a converse, I would say, if it is equilateral, then what? Then a triangle has 3 equal sides. So a converse just switches the if and then. It says, if a number is even, then it is divisible by 2. So what would you write that one as? If what?
If it is divisible by 2.
If a number is divisible by 2, then it's even. So a converse, once again, just switches the if and then statements. All right, so we're going to get into the Pythagorean theorem converse. Just a second to get caught out, so I'm just rolling. All right, so once again, we know that a triangle, if it has a right triangle, if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so that's what we learned last week, that if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the converse to that would be, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle is what?
Right.
Yep.
So we're trying to figure out which right.
Yeah. So this is important. This is what we're going to talk about today. If a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then that means that that triangle will be a right triangle. If a squared plus b squared does not equal c squared, then it's not a right triangle. So it just says the converse can help us prove whether or not triangles are right triangles. Pythagorean theorem Converse to prove whether or not the following triangles are right triangles. Justify your answers. Justifying your answers means showing your work. Okay, so number 1, which one of those is the hypotenuse? 85, because the hypotenuse is always the what? The biggest, the longest. So this is C. It doesn't matter which one's A and which one's B. So I just put AB. So in order for this to be a right triangle, A squared plus B squared has to equal C squared. So 84 squared plus 13 squared has to equal 85 squared. So I'm going to use my calculator. So 84 squared plus 13 squared is 7,225. 85 squared is 7,225. So I just use my calculator. There's a squared button right next to the 7. And use the squared button. So, is this a right triangle?
Yes.
Yes. The right triangle because they are equal. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, let's do number 2 together. All right, on number 2, which one of those is our hypotenuse? The 21, because it's the biggest. It doesn't matter, A or B on the other ones. So A squared, 15 squared, plus B squared, 12 squared, has to equal 21 squared. So on my calculator, 15 squared plus 12 squared is 369. And then I'm going to do 21 squared. It's 441. So does this form a right triangle? No. And they will, if you ever look at like the answer keys and stuff, they will do this. Put a line through the equal sign saying that they are not equal. The other ones we left them as plain equals because they were equals. These are not equal. All right, I'm going to let you all do 3 and 4. You have to justify your answer, so you have to show your work. Yes, Tehran. All right. So number 3, C is the 45 because it's the longest, A and B. So 30 squared plus 15 squared equals 45 squared. So 30 squared plus 15 squared is 1125. 45 squared is 2025. So these are not equal, so it's a no. All right, and then this one, C is the 30, A and B. So 18 squared plus 24 squared equals 30 squared. So that's 900. 18 squared plus 24 squared is also 900. So this one's a yes. They do make right triangles. So I'm saying yes or no to whether they're making a right triangle or not. So 1 and 4 do make a right triangle. So if I wanted to, I could put little right triangles in here, but I could not on 2 and 3 because they don't make a right triangle. All right, we're flipping the paper over. So this one, I want you all to do this one, and this one. They want to know, does it make a right triangle? And the proof part is where you put your work. So just like on the other slide, it doesn't have a picture. Okay, that's the only difference. So they just list the side lengths instead of a picture. You can draw a picture if you want. So you're plugging it into a squared plus b squared equals c squared in the proof part. If they do equal each other, then yes, it makes a right triangle. If they don't, it's a no. All right, what did you all get on the first one?
No.
No, it is a no. Because when I take this is my C because it's the longest, A and B. So 12 squared plus 24 squared equals 36 squared. So 12 squared is 720, and then 36 squared is 1296. So they're not equal. All right, what about this one?
Yeah.
Yes, this one's a yes. This is a right angle. This is my A, this is my C, this is my B. C is always the longest length. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 20 squared plus 21 squared, that's 841, and then 29 squared is also 841. Here.
Do side lengths ever add up to the hypotenuse? Will it ever be a right triangle?
Probably not. All right, moving down to the bottom here. It says, use the Pythagorean Converse to help you answer the following. So it says, Jimmy thinks that a window frame in his house looks slanted because the corner does not appear to be a 90-degree angle. His wife thinks that it looks just fine. They measured the window to check and found that the width to be 25 inches, the height to be 36 inches, and the diagonal distance to be 45 inches. Who is correct? So first of all, they gave us three lengths, 25, 36, and 45. Which one's the hypotenuse? The 45, which hypotenuse is always the longest length. So C, and then I can put B and A. So we're going to use that converse. 25 squared plus 36 squared equals 45 squared. To see if Jimmy's correct, that it is a 90, or that it's not a 90. His wife says it is a 90. So 25 squared plus 36 squared is 1921. 45 squared is 2025. Are those equal?
No.
No. So is Jimmy correct or is his wife correct? Jimmy. Wrong. Your wife's always correct.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say.
Jimmy's correct because it is not a 90-degree angle because they're not equal. All right, try number 7. All right. So it says that Hattie wants a triangular garden in her backyard for all of her vegetables. She's going to use 3 pieces of fencing that measure 7, 10, and 8. Will her garden be in the shape of a right triangle? Why or why not? So here's my A, my C, my B. So 7 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. So 7 squared plus 8 squared is 113, and 10 squared is 100. So no, it does not equal a right triangle because they're not equal. All right, we're going to brainstorm on this one together. It says the perimeters of 3 squares are shown below. Could the 3 squares be positioned so that they meet to form a right triangle? Why or why not? Well, first of all, you have to figure out the side lengths. You have to figure out the side lengths. Because remember on our assignment, they had like 3 squares together, and then we had to talk about the area or the perimeter. So we need to first find the side length of each square. Well, perimeter of a square is what? You add up all the sides, but all the numbers are equal the same number. So the same number plus the same number plus the same number plus the same number equals the perimeter of a square. So what's the shortcut way in figuring out what one side is?
Divided by 4.
Divided by 4. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. 140 divided by 4
35.
is 35. I was like 35, not 45. And then 148 divided by 4
37.
is 37. So they want to know, do those form a right triangle? So now use your Pythagorean converse to figure out if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then yes, it would form a right triangle. No, it's not. Does it form a right triangle? Yes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shut off the video, and then we're going to do the homework.